Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight's midweek. We have an awesome uh, discussion, conversation scheduled tonight. So, if you would, if you don't mind, if you can go into the comments, let us know where you're viewing from. Let us know if you're here from TFCC, supporting your pastor, Dr. A. Whoever you are, will you let us know that you are viewing in the comments? I see that we have some viewers that are already on YouTube as well as Facebook. So thank you so much. Please also like and share. Tonight, we're going to be talking about homelessness in North Carolina, but also homelessness in general. I think that the information that's going to be shared tonight can also be applied in different arenas and different spaces in other states, okay, where certainly homelessness is an issue in our country and in our world. And so we want to talk about that as well tonight. And so if you have not subscribed to our YouTube page, you can do that, Pillar Community Church on YouTube. If you're interested in volunteering, becoming a ministry partner, you can email us at admin@pillarcommunity.org, as well as if you want to partner with us financially, there's a mechanism to do that. We are on Cash App, Givelify, Tidely. You can mail it. All of that information should be in the comments tonight. But I don't want to prolong this discussion. I just want to remind you of what we've been talking about just a little bit within our previous Bible study, where we talked about this historical Jesus. And we talked about a question, and I want to lean into this particular question as we are listening tonight. If you remember, I gave y'all some homework, right? The homework was to consider a particular question. We always have a number of questions when we have Bible study. And so when we were on the last time, let's see if I can get to it. I have so many notes from the last time, and I wanted to make sure that I got to this question. So the question is, if you supported the same politics of compassion as Jesus, how would you implement them? Okay. And so when we talk about implementation, when we talk about action, when we talk about community outreach, when we talk about the three pillars that the Pillar Community Church is founded on, and that is discipleship, kingdom, and community, how do we implement these particular politics of compassion as we talked about Jesus did? So we have an awesome conversation partner that I'm going to bring on, Reverend Dr. Latonya Agard, and we're going to talk about homelessness. And this is, I believe, a way for us to lean into the politics of compassion of Jesus. So let's bring Dr. A on. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, sis. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here with us talking
You.
about this awesome topic. And when I say awesome, I mean not that everything about it is great, but it is certainly
Sure.
something that needs to be highlighted, that should be talked about more, that should be brought to the forefront. And sometimes we don't really talk about those things. And so this is a
Right.
great opportunity for us to highlight a topic that we really need to lean into and bring to the forefront. So,
Absolutely. I'm excited.
yeah,
Thank you so much for having me.
absolutely.
I admire and love you and your ministry. So
I'm
it's a
here.
gift to be
Yeah,
here with you and the Pillar Community Church and all of your followers and our friends, I hope, who will tune in and
absolutely.
listen to what I think is a great conversation about a very important topic.
Absolutely. And so I want to just jump right in. Okay. I just want to jump right in.
Mhm.
For those who are joining, we're having a conversation tonight, homelessness no more, creating lasting ways and to make change together, right? And to forge change together. So please feel free to ask any questions in the comments. We can see your questions. Also, if you want to share this with someone as well, I think this will be an awesome discussion for us to lean into. Very important discussion. So let's talk to you, Dr. A. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey. Tell us about you, right? I didn't want to just
Wow.
read something, right?
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about your journey. Of course,
Yeah.
I know, some of your journey,
Sure.
but inform those who are watching and those who will watch on the replay.
Absolutely. I am a child of the Deep South. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. And so, one of the things that I think is really interesting about my own journey is I can say that I've lived a very favored life, in the sense that, I have never wanted or lacked anything I've needed. And I've gotten most of the things I've wanted in life. And I know I am an exception to the rule for many people, not just in my circle or my church, but we are exceptions when we think about the population of the world here in the
Sure.
United States.
Sure.
And so my journey is an interesting one, in that, I was reared in the church, and I was reared in a church that was very heavy on Bible, but it was a very personal kind of Bible teaching. Right. It was very much about personal piety. It was very much about how we walk with Christ as individuals. But there wasn't a large vision about what that means for how we engage community. I remember the pastor saying, we're going to grow. But I didn't see us doing anything in our community that would cause any kind of growth. And it never happened. Right. And so I hold that intention with my own journey with God as a believer who, I go to college, but then when God calls me to ministry, I choose to go to seminary outside of my Baptist upbringing, right?
Yeah.
So I decide. I started at Shaw Divinity School.
Okay.
Go Shaw Bears.
Okay.
And but I was trying to do that and work full time and serve the church part time, and then have my family. And the Lord said, "You're doing too much." And so I prayed. I was like, God, what can I do to make this happen? And so God led me to Duke Divinity School, which is a Methodist school. So my Baptist background now meets Methodism and Wesleyan theology. And God's prevenient grace, God's grace that's already there, God's grace that's already active in our lives. And what does that mean? And so I would say that my journey toward justice as an anchor for my ministry really began as I began to think outside of my own theological box. And I would say that is probably something that is so key for every believer, right? We need to get out of our theological boxes.
That's good.
And so, Baptist theology meets Methodism, and I go through that. And then God leads me after that to serve in a Methodist church, United Methodist Church, cross-racial church, but in a very rural community. And I see things, I see needs in those communities, but those needs are really being taken care of by this close-knit community. But then I go work for the Catholic Church. And that is where
I didn't know that.
Oh, girl, yeah, I'm all over the place, which is why our church is so quirky and strange. Right. So after I left the Methodist church, I left there as their congregational care pastor because it wasn't a full-time position. And I needed a full-time job, and I pray, and God opens the door for me to be a case manager for a program called the Support Circle Program for Homeless Families, right? This is when there was the Raleigh-Wake Partnership to End Homelessness. Just about every major city has something called the 10-year plan to end homelessness. You all probably remember that, right? And so I start working in this ministry as a case manager. And again, you got to kind of think about my perspective, right? So I'm very well educated. I have that as part of what's in my toolbox. I come from a 2-parent household. I come from a dad who's worked 4 or 5 jobs. My mom, who was home with us, then went to work, right? So I'm kind of painting the picture of a lot of stability for me in that regard, and not a lot of material lack. But my heart was moved by the injustice that I've seen, right? That I have much, we have much, but why are people who are just like me, like people who, have had the same kinds of backgrounds, have more degrees, whatever. What is it that causes some of us to enter into these places of lack or poverty or homelessness? And what cycle keeps people there? And what is the response of the church? Or what is my response as a person of faith, right? So those were the questions I had. And God calls me in and allows me to serve as a case manager. Look, and that job, you're not going to believe this. I was tasked with matching one local church in Wake County with one family exiting homelessness into permanent housing for 1 year. So it's one church, one family for 1 year. Now I'm a church girl, right? And I know we're supposed to do right. So I'm like, this is gonna be easy. This is gonna be a piece of cake.
My goodness.
One of the things I noticed, Pastor Bianca, was that there were more faces that looked like us who were experiencing homelessness when we look at the percentages and the proportionality. So I said, oh, it's just that our churches don't know, because most of the people we're serving, I'm interviewing, are Black folk, people of color, right?
Right.
So it's going to be easy. I got connections with Black churches.
Yeah.
And you know what happened, don't you? You know what happened?
Yeah, I know.
It didn't go that way. It was hard.
Yeah.
I had pastors in churches that didn't call me back.
Wow.
I had pastors in churches who told me that this is just not the direction that they wanted to go in. It was really an eye opener that caused me to think more deeply about justice from a faith perspective. Now, I'm not saying every local church is called to work with one family for 1 year to end homelessness. But I am saying something was amiss when most of the churches I talked to refused to engage the issue at all. I heard this often. We are not political.
Yes.
We just want to preach the gospel.
Right. But the
gospel is political.
It's political.
Because the gospel proclaims liberty to the oppressed, right? The gospel proclaims sight to the blind. So the gospel proclaims the grand reversal of all things, right?
That's right. Oh. So last week, Dr. A, on our midweek service, we talked about Jesus, this historical figure of Jesus, but we also talked about all of the politics that were surrounding the Pharisees, the purity system, all of these systems, right? So we talked about all of these systems that were certainly political, like everything that Jesus was talking about, and even this gospel of showing himself faithful to women and the poor, the sick, right? All of this was very political, right? And wow, that's
So it was, it was heartbreaking. But then there were churches that would open up, and to see that transformation of churches and people as people come together to be a support system. It was like seeing the proverb that it takes a village in action.
Yeah.
Because what I found was that a lot of people who experience homelessness either have broken networks of relationships or
Mm.
strained networks of relationships for various reasons,
Yeah.
or the shame of their condition makes them unable to share with people who could help,
Oh,
right?
sure.
So we're
Yeah.
dealing with and we're dealing with the spiritual sickness of shame.
That's right.
um,
Yeah.
we're dealing with the spiritual sickness of judgment, people being judgmental.
Yeah.
And so it was my work in that program, and it was for about 18 months, that really opened my eyes, opened my heart, because I had to interview, families, and I might interview them at a hotel, at a shelter. We may have to go to a McDonald's and meet, right? Because who knows where they've been living or what condition they were in. And so it really opened my eyes personally,
Yeah.
one, to the fact that I really have lived a very favored life. But my favorite life has been given to me for the purpose of giving to others, for the purpose of
I see.
walking alongside those who deserve no less than what I have. Because
Yeah.
what I have, I don't deserve.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know that. And
Right.
so, what does it mean as a person of faith to walk with people,
Yeah.
proclaim gospel, and to enter into these spaces that are highly contested,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
in the world that we're moving into very, very
Yeah.
soon in
Very quickly.
2025, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that political piece, anything that affects the daily lives of people is political, right? So I don't
It's
mean,
political.
yeah, it's political because it's about the
It is.
division of goods and services and resources for the body
Yes.
politic, right? And so that's
That's
what political is. So
yeah.
doing that work opened my eyes. I was called to a church, and they were very traditional, wonderful church, but again, really struggled with like
Mhm.
engaging justice directly. And so,
Yeah.
when God called me to plant Transformation Fellowship Christian
Yeah.
Church, I was doing my thing, and
Yeah.
God put me in relationship with the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness.
Wow.
And what I thought would be a very brief consultant relationship, I was a consultant for diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Yeah.
starting in 2021, I think. And here we are.
Now
A
you're
few
the
years
executive
later.
director, like
Yeah, here we are a
yeah,
few years later. And it
that's
may have
right.
been 2020.
I think
From,
I want to say it was 2020, if I remember
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from consultant to interim to now doing this work. And again, it's been a journey for me. And so part of it, I think, is having the grace to walk with people wherever they are,
Yeah.
because like Paul, the scales have to come from our eyes,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Here is a rewind question. I want to go back to
Sure.
something you said.
Yeah.
This idea of one church, one family for a year.
Hmm.
If there is a pastor that is viewing right now, if there's a
Yeah.
church member that's viewing
Sure.
right now that is
Yeah.
pricked to say, man, this is something that I feel called to, or I
Yeah.
wonder what that looks like.
Hmm.
What would be the day in the life, from your opinion, okay,
Hmm.
of a church that would take on a family
Sure.
a year? What would that
Yeah.
look like? Because I'm gonna give some benefit of the doubt. I would
Yeah.
imagine that there are some churches that don't know what that really would look like
Hmm.
and what kind of support that really would entail.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
financial? Is it counseling?
Yeah.
Is it, what would that type of support be? So can you help with that?
Absolutely. Part of that obviously depends on a few variables, right? So how
Sure.
large is this family? What are their internal resources already, right?
Mhm.
Some folks, in that program, they had to be working already, right?
Okay.
In that program. In that
Okay.
program, they could not be actively using any controlled substance, right? So let's
Got it.
take those as givens. Let's take
Okay.
as a given the person is working, even if they're not working full time or working at the level
Sure.
that they could, right? Underemployed, but they're working. Let's take
Yeah.
that for granted for this framework. Let's
Okay.
take for this framework the fear that people are using controlled substances, and let's remove that from the equation, right?
Yep.
Because that's a variable. But let's assume for us that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Um, and those were the two major things. So what it looked like for a church would be, one, to have a core group of people, usually between 5 and 7,
Okay.
within the church, who would be the support circle, the primary circle that would be providing this quote support, right? And the support is not only direct, meaning we cook meals for the family, right? That's a way
Oh,
of direct support, but it's
sure.
also connecting the family to other resources in the community. So I'll
Makes
give you
sense.
an example.
Okay.
Let's say that our family is a single father, because I'm going to say that because most people think, oh, single mother. So I'm going to say single father
Sure.
who
Sure.
is working. He has custody of his 3 children, and they are leaving a transitional housing program, right? And a transitional housing program is a program that has a set amount of time you can live there. They have a program that helps you save your money, set goals, and then you're supposed to transition out into permanent housing, right? That's
Got it.
where the support circle program comes in. So they're ready to transition out of temporary into permanent.
Yeah.
Um, they have a voucher, right? So they've been awarded a voucher, so they can move wherever they want, because now, right, our vouchers now allow you, for the most part, to choose wherever you want to live. It just depends on whether your landlord or your property owner or manager, I'll say,
We'll
wants to
accept it.
receive the voucher.
Yeah. Got it.
So step one for the team is to support this dad in his housing search, right? Let's not assume someone knows how to do that or knows how much is involved in that. Let's not assume that. Let's
Mhm.
assume this father either doesn't have time because he's working, right? Because everything is open 9 to 5 and he's working during the day. So,
Right. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
maybe someone on the team says, you know what I'll do? If you give me your budget, I will spend a couple of hours this week researching some potential properties, and maybe we can talk about those at the end of the week or on Wednesday, right?
Mhm.
So that's a low lift for some of us, because hey, we know how to do that. We can go online, we can narrow it down, we can send the information via email, and then it's a conversation, right? So
Right.
it's a low lift for some people, but it may not be a low lift for the person on the team who really just want to cook for the kids, right?
Right. Right.
I don't want to
Right.
play on no computer. I want to cook for the kids. And
Right.
so the support from week to week can vary, because as this person moves into their permanent
I
place of
see.
residence, right?
Yeah.
So you need furniture, you
Yep.
need deposits,
All of those
and you
things.
just might need someone who is willing to write a letter from the church to this property
Okay.
owner to say, hey, you know what?
We're their support system type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Makes
person
sense.
actually has a network of support. I
Yeah.
know, the credit may not look the best, right?
Yeah. Right.
They may have something on their record. It's not a felony, but they're like, it's something. I don't want to deal
Yeah.
with it. But maybe you could come and say, hey, our church is working with this person,
Yeah.
and we would love it if you would partner with us so that this family can stabilize,
Yeah.
and then they can become great contributors to our community, and they can reach their dreams too, right?
Yeah.
So some
Right.
of it is just being present to say, hey, we're part of the village, and this
Right.
person's not alone.
Yeah.
As I said, maybe cooking meals every now and then. Maybe the dad has a car, but it breaks down, right? So the
Right.
church may say, hey, you know what? Do we want to invest, the money in, helping this dad fix his car? He has part of it. We're going to give part of it. That may be an answer. Could be an
Right.
answer. Somebody says, they don't need to do that. I got my boy over here. He fixes my car all the time. I'll talk to him,
Yeah.
and Yeah, he said he'll do it for nothing. All we got to do is get the car from there to there. So
Yeah.
part of the beauty of that program was being
Mhm.
able to leverage the networks within the church
Yes, that
so
makes
that
sense.
we're bearing the burden together, even
Right,
beyond the congregation.
right.
Because when you think about your network of support, right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
some degrees of separation. Somebody knows
Somebody knows
President
somebody.
Barack and Michelle
Right.
Obama. Okay,
That's
right.
right. That's
So
right. Right,
when
right.
we leverage who we are and what we
Yeah,
have as a
yeah,
community and
yeah,
village,
yeah.
we can help this family bear the weight of the trauma as they
Wow.
recover, as they get kids in school and settled,
Yeah.
as he finds a better job. And so by the year's time, the ideal is that the official program is over, but that the relationships are
Yes.
not,
Are not
right?
over. Right.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
The
So
relationship.
yeah, yeah,
That's oh, if there's a pastor, I just want to help somebody, right?
yeah,
Look, I just believe that people maybe don't know what it takes, right? And maybe
yeah,
the thought could be daunting.
yeah.
Maybe that's still daunting for some, but for some, they might feel compelled, right? And so thank you so
That's
much for
right.
taking that time. Now,
Yeah.
now let's go into a different aspect. So we talked about homelessness before we actually went live, and so I wanted to get in this idea of what are some misconceptions of homelessness. What
Mm,
are help educate us just a little bit. What is a real definition, right, of homelessness? It could encompass more than we think, right?
sure. Yeah.
And so can you talk through that a little bit, maybe educating us with some of those myths as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a slide up. If you wouldn't mind bringing that slide up, we'll talk about it a little bit. Now, I'm a movie buff. If y'all know me, I just love movies. So I want to talk about eradicating myths. So if I were to ask most people to close their eyes and imagine someone who is homeless, someone without a home, someone who is unhoused, generally people are going to imagine a man or woman of color, probably someone who looks dangerous. We imagine someone who has a controlled substance problem. We imagine someone who is low skilled. We imagine someone who has a mental health issue. Right.
Hmm.
This is what we call, quote unquote, if you were casting a film,
Yep.
stock character, right? Um, and so I use for this slide the image from a 1994 film. I don't know if you've seen this, Pastor Bianca, Surviving the Game. Have you seen this? Do you know this movie?
I do
All
not know
right.
this movie.
In this
I
in
won't
this
even tell
movie,
you how old I was.
I know.
Yeah, I won't even tell you how old I was in 94, but I probably wasn't watching this movie.
Okay, you aren't probably weren't old enough to watch this, right? So
Uh,
eradicating myths.
yeah.
Our culture has promoted a narrative, a myth designed to increase our fear and to inhibit our desire to see and embrace people experiencing homelessness as full human beings with inherent dignity and worth. So in the movie 1994, in the movie you have Ice-T, Gary Busey, and Charles S. Dutton. Ice-T plays a man who is homeless, and he's recruited by a group of men to be a wilderness hunting guide, right? And so, he's like, I got nothing to lose. So, what's it going to cost? It's not going to cost anything. We're going to take you out into the wilderness, and you're going to be our guide. And it's free food, it's free lodging. What he doesn't realize is that the men intend to hunt him
Oh,
because he is viewed as a worthless homeless man. He is
now you're gonna
nothing.
make me want to go watch this movie. So I'm gonna have
Boom.
to find it
But
because I've
listen, listen,
never
listen,
seen this
listen.
movie.
It's a good one. It's a good one. So one of the characters says he is a worthless homeless man. He's nothing,
Mm,
right? And so the myth is just that. that people who experience homelessness are worthless. They have some kind of mental health problem. They have a drug or alcohol problem. They are low skilled or no skilled. And here are the ones that are really difficult for us in our Western culture that tells us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and make it happen. This is you made this happen. This is your fault. And if it is your fault, then you need to fix it by yourself.
Wow.
That I have zero responsibility to help you. Because it's a moral failure on your part. Like that's one of the myths.
Okay.
And because of that, right, this barrier is created that it makes it easy for us to just not see. I don't even want to say look past, but just not see.
Yeah.
Now, the truth of the matter is that the trauma of homelessness often drives people to control substances, to manage their anxiety.
Yeah.
And then they become depressed.
Yeah.
It leads to mental health challenges.
Yeah.
It exacerbates what was probably maybe under control.
Yeah.
Because your housing's under control. You got a roof over your head. You know you're going to sleep tonight. But when you don't have that, can you imagine that's what you have to think about every single day? Where am I going to sleep?
Yeah.
What are my children going to eat? What am I going to eat? And God forbid it's raining or it's ice cold or there's a hurricane coming.
Yeah.
Right? And so the myth is that this is that person's problem. The myth is that they made it happen. They have all that they need to get out of it. And if they would just, right, and we can add the ... if they would just get out of jail. I mean, if they would just get a job, if they would just stop using drugs, if they would just, get their mind right, if they would just all these things.
They would just,
right. Here's a question I ask people.
Yeah.
The first thing you write on your job application is what? After you write your name.
You write your address. And if you don't have an address, you can't apply for a job.
There you go.
You gotta have an address.
You have no address.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's like step one.
That's step one.
Oftentimes there are also things that are in arrears, right? Maybe before they became homeless, they were living somewhere, but the light bill, right, got behind. They had the gas bill got behind, and so they have all of these other things that need to be paid off before they can even make a deposit on a new apartment if they were able to get one, despite having an eviction. And now most places require like 3 months rent up front, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
3 months rent up front, but also they require sometimes times 5 or times 6 per month of what the rent is.
Correct. Yeah.
From an income.
That's a major barrier, especially in a state where the minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour.
Come on. That's
right. Still $7.25 an hour. Right. So, the statistics tell us that, in Wake County, it's different for each municipality, but on average in Wake County, a 2-parent household would both have to have 2 full-time jobs at $7.25 an hour to afford what is the average apartment for their family size. That's how expensive housing has become.
Yeah.
And so, that's a myth, right? A lot of people experiencing homelessness are actually working. How about that? They actually have jobs. They're paying taxes.
They're paying taxes. Yep.
Yeah. And so these are the systemic and structural issues that inhibit people from being able to just recover and bounce back,
Yeah.
right? Which is
Can I
where
also add something to
yeah,
that too?
go ahead.
I
Uh-huh.
want to add something to that too, is that some of them are college students.
Yes, college
I want to
students.
I want to add to that because I completely understand. I had an experience when I was in college the first time where and I lost a scholarship during the summer that was
Yeah.
supposed to tide me over. So I got a job, but what I got wasn't enough for me to pay my rent.
Wow.
And so though I was working and I was in college and I was going to school, I had to figure out how I was
Yes.
going to live for the summer.
How about that? Wow. That's deep,
So
right?
so I understand.
Yeah. And think about this, Pastor. Think about all of the children or young adults who age out of foster care, who age out of group homes without a place to go. They
Wow. They
are, in
say that
effect,
again. Say that again. They age
homeless.
out of group homes,
Yeah. So you age out, right?
right?
You
And
can't
they
live
age
there
out of
forever.
you can't live there
Sometimes
forever.
they age out of foster care and they have
Ah,
nowhere to go. They are, in effect, homeless.
homeless.
Right? Now they may double up with somebody. They may go from place to place, live in their car if they manage to get a car, right? That person is homeless.
Yes.
And what if they have a child, right? They got dreams like the rest of us. Want to go to college, want to do this, but without the basics that we need to take care of our human body, to take care of our bodies,
Yes.
it's hard to think about calculus and all these abstract things. I got to find something to eat. I've got
Yeah,
to take care of my bodily needs, and I need somewhere to sleep every night.
that's all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So those are some of the myths. Yeah, those
Wow.
are some of the myths.
Wow.
Um, that's another, that's another image there. I want to think about this. This is one of the things we talked about before we went online, and you asked like, okay, who qualifies? What does that even mean when
Right.
we talk about someone who is experiencing homelessness?
That's right.
Well, according to HUD, and I use HUD because in the agency where I work, and in a lot of agencies that are providing resources and programs for people experiencing homelessness, we get a good amount of our funding through HUD. Now, not every agency does. But the agency I work with, we do, and so do many others that we work with, right? For HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, for people who might, not be familiar with that term,
Yeah.
there are 4 categories. Literally homeless, right? That you don't have a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence,
Got it.
right? So we can think, okay, what does that mean? It could mean that you going from place to place to place every week, right?
Yeah.
It could mean you're sleeping outside. It
Yes.
could mean a tent. It
Yes.
could mean an abandoned building, right?
Yeah.
It could mean your car or other vehicle. But that's what we're talking about.
Now
Um,
there's some tent communities. So number one,
yes,
I am very familiar with this because there are tent communities here in Raleigh.
yes, there
And
are.
these tent communities are in the woods. I mean, and you
Yes.
can't see them during the summer or the spring, but you
Hmm.
can see them like now in the winter when the leaves have fallen off the trees, then you can
Yes.
see all the tents in the woods, and there are
Yes.
these communities spread out throughout Raleigh. So I mean, it's evident and it's here, So
Yes, it's quite evident. I want
it
to pick
is.
up on what you just said. I'm gonna come back to the
Yeah,
slide.
sure, sure, sure.
You mentioned something that's so critical right now because earlier this year there was a Supreme Court case called Grants Pass. Right, it's a
Mm,
Grants Pass case. Um, so this town called Grants Pass in Oregon passed an ordinance that effectively made being homeless a crime. So right now we're talking about the criminalization of not having a home. And so the case surrounded people who were being fined or ticketed or arrested for sleeping outside. Now, in the town, there was one shelter with, let's say, I can't remember, but let's say the shelter had 40 beds available. But the population of people experiencing homelessness was well over 40. So even if the shelter was totally full, it's still inadequate. And so people, I mean, they just slept where they could sleep.
Yeah.
And so the Supreme Court ruled that it is within the right of these municipalities to pass laws that prohibit people from sleeping outside. Yeah. From sleeping outside. And if they do, then there can be, a number of things that you do to discourage it, right? So fining, ticketing, jail, etc. Right. And so the question is, when that happens, what is the end result? Well, if I have nowhere to sleep, then I have to sleep because my body has to have it. So I sleep outside, or I sleep behind a building, or I put up a tent.
Yeah.
And if I get ticketed enough, I don't have the money to pay.
Right.
And so I end up going to jail. And depending on the municipality, right, I end up in some for-profit criminal justice facility.
Yeah.
And then I become labor for the state or the facility, because these privately owned prisons, they make more money based on their capacity. Right. So it's better for them if they get more bodies in there.
Of course.
So where are the bodies going to come from? This is one way, right, to populate that. Yeah. But it's also a way for us to simply say your not having a home is such a disgrace. It is such a horror. It is such a shame that we can't bear to see it. So we got to put it away somewhere.
We got to put it away.
Right? We got to push it away from us.
Yeah.
And we push it, various places.
Yeah.
So, there's a movement across the US where this is happening. So, right. So that law, the Supreme Court said they sided with Grants Pass. And even in Raleigh, most people may not know that, but in Raleigh, there is a law on the books that actually says that, as long as the city of Raleigh has a 24-hour shelter, it is against the law to sleep outside.
Right? Yeah, and it's very interesting too, because one of the tent cities or tent communities that was near 540 on Capitol, someone came in and removed all their tents, and it was a huge deal. They cut down the trees.
Yeah.
They removed all of those areas where actually they were, sleeping. And so in preparation for approval of this. Yeah.
Yes. And so, the question is, so what happens to people when their community is razed, right? It is torn down. Yeah. Basically we're just moving people from one part of the city to the next. One of the officials in the Grants Pass case actually said, well, our goal is to hopefully they'll just go to another town. Hopefully they'll just leave and
just leave and go somewhere else and let them do it.
Yes. because this is not our problem. We're not willing to be creative about how we deal with this. And so you're right. What we see often is a sweep through one community of people
Yeah.
where they have created safety and accountability, and they have created for themselves a place where they can at least experience the closeness of human relationship and community.
Yeah.
And that's taken away. And often, if they can't take everything with them, it's either burned or it's thrown away into the
Yeah.
dump because people have said it's a nuisance, it's a community health hazard, et cetera, right? And so those are the kinds of things we're facing. So literally homeless, imminent eviction, right? So you got the eviction notice and you cannot pay and you got to be out in 10
Right.
days or however many days. Unaccompanied youth, right? And then look at this one. We don't talk a lot about category 4, people who are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or other dangerous or life-threatening conditions are
Okay.
also homeless, right? And so in the work that I do, we actually we emphasize and attempt to serve as best we can in the agency I work for, categories 1 and 4. So a lot of the funding that we receive is for categories 1 and 4, literally homeless, or you're fleeing a violent situation, right? And so some of us have heard of the McKinney-Vento Act. In all of our public schools, we have McKinney-Vento liaisons who work with and advocate for and provide resources to ensure that youth experiencing homelessness have what they need to continue their education and to have stability, right? The people who are in category 2, Pastor Bianca, it's very difficult for them to find often the resources that they need because ending homelessness is something that it doesn't take a lot of money, but it takes more than what our society is willing to give and to pay.
Yeah.
It's not a lack of funds, it's a lack of will, right? Because we can figure out how to build a multi-million-dollar stadium or whatever it is we want, right? So it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of will. And for people who are housed, even if you have an eviction notice in your hand, you still are housed, right? And so you don't qualify often until you're being literally evicted, right? And so
until you're number 1.
Right, right, until you get to category 1. Yeah. And so there are some programs called diversion programs. So this is a great way for churches or faith communities or giving circles or sororities or fraternities or other groups of people, right? Because we have many networks that we're a part of. We're a part of more than just our churches. That's right. But people who say, you know what, I want to participate in helping to end this. What can I do? You can find a nonprofit that does a lot of diversion work. And diversion work means helping people to avoid becoming homeless because of an immediate crisis situation. I lost my job, so I got behind on my rent. I have a new job. I don't get paid for 2 weeks. But if I don't get this money in a month, right, we're going to be on the street. Yeah. There aren't a lot of funds for that category of folks. And so that's one thing a church can do, like partner with a nonprofit that's doing that work, or create your own initiative that's doing that work and figure out how you can get your organization out there and let folks know that this is where we want to participate. Yeah. This is how we want to fit into this puzzle called ending homelessness. We want to help people remain in their homes. Because what we know, Pastor, is that we call it housing first. Yeah. If we take care of housing first, right? If people have a safe, stable
Mm.
clean, affordable place to live, then it is easier and more likely that we can address any other issues people have,
That's
whether those
right.
issues
Yeah.
with unemployment, underemployment, whether those are issues related to a disability and their need for occupational therapy, for instance, whatever it is. But we have to have that stability of a person having a place,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
somewhere safe from the wind and the
Wow.
rain elements.
This has my brain thinking. I'm sure you can tell because you know me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
But this
you.
just
Yeah.
yeah. But this just has me thinking about, like, all of the opportunity, right, that is potentially here, because you said something that really struck me, honestly. It struck
Mm,
me. It's not that the funds aren't there,
mm.
it's the will. And
Yes,
and that really struck me, to think that we have so many people actually who are 1 or 2 paychecks from
sure.
number 2 or 1. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And then when we think about, honestly, what could visit us in 2025, and when we think about all of the other implications of what is being discussed,
Mm, mhm. Yeah, yeah.
this
It
could become, a more highlighted issue and touch more families than
absolutely,
maybe weren't touched before. And so, very
absolutely.
interesting. Wow.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
During COVID, there were eviction moratoriums, right? And that came from the federal level.
Yes, it did. Yes,
And so we but money came from the federal level
as well.
to give to people so that they could live, right?
That's right. Yep.
And so we kind of have a model a little bit, but
Yeah.
our government doesn't want to keep doing that kind of thing, right?
No.
But there
No.
is a such thing as an eviction moratorium. Now, the underside of that is that for people who are property owners and their property and the income from their property is what keeps them from becoming homeless.
Right.
If they don't receive the money that they need from their properties,
Yeah.
we're really just swapping some folks for other folks, right? So
That's
there
right.
has to be something that's more creative
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
involves a different way
Yeah.
of understanding and thinking
Mm.
about this issue. I believe in eviction moratoriums
Yeah.
because in Western North Carolina, Hurricane Helene just devastated some places, and it's cold. And I tell you, within a month after the storm, there were some folks saying that, hey, my property owner is demanding that I pay my rent. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't even live here right now, right?
Right.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't even stay here. And there's been some advocacy for our Chief Justice on the Supreme Court. There's been some advocacy with our governor right now. We have not secured an eviction moratorium, but this is also another place where people can participate, right? You can call your legislator, you can write, you can badger, right? Like that widow in Luke who says, look, you gonna give me what I want, or I'm never going away.
Yeah. Right.
We have a voice, right?
Yes.
And so there are
Yes.
many ways that we can plug in, but that's just one, right? That's
Yeah.
just one way for
Wow.
people who are more into the policy side, because it takes both. It
Right.
takes immediate assistance, which is
Yes.
relief. We talk about charity, right? Which is what our churches are really more comfortable with to some extent.
Yes.
Um, that's why we call it the homelessness management system. I hate that because we're
Got
just managing it. We're
Yeah.
not we're not really ending it. It's like we're just trying to manage it. But then there are some policy and practices and systems and structures that need to be torn down, reworked, reborn,
Yeah.
exorcised.
And that
So
was
that,
another question I was gonna ask, is about
yeah,
this policy and legislative
yeah,
actions within North Carolina,
right.
really have to come up to meet this demand
Mhm.
in lieu of covering it up and acting like it doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one of those pieces. So here's a question. We have this,
Sure.
and we've been on for about 56 minutes. We can
Oh,
talk.
wow. Oh my gosh. This has been
No,
so,
you
yes.
and I can talk about this, and maybe we'll have to have another session, right?
Yeah.
But there are a couple things that I want to ask as it relates to this hope in the midst of what we're talking about. Like you're showing now the systematic factors, right? You were showing the systematic factors, and we talked about a lot of factors. But
Mhm.
what type of hope do we have in this future of like homelessness no more, right? Like what? Yes.
Yeah.
What can we do, right? You have, and I'm gonna put a plug, even if you don't put a plug, but
Yeah.
there is December, help me with the date, 20,
December 20th, Saturday,
December
December
20th.
20th. Yes.
There is a gala, and
That's right.
the purpose is for fundraising. And so I will be there. Others will be there. I've invited some people as well. I've sent messages to say, please get a ticket. I don't know if they've gotten a ticket yet, but if you're watching this, please go get a ticket. And and really that is one way that I know that your organization is raising funds, but you also have other things, right? You have a store where you can volunteer. I think people can volunteer. There's some other things that you have. So what can we do?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for plugging our gala. I'll talk a little bit more about that toward the end. So, what can we do? What is our pathway to change? I promote that there has to be a mental shift, and I
Yeah.
mean that not only on the personal, but also on the communal.
Yeah.
Right? That there
Yeah.
has to be a mental shift that
Yeah.
every person does deserve a home.
Yes.
Not everybody believes that.
Yeah. That's right.
Not
That's
everybody
right.
believes it. Some people say, well, you deserve it if you work real hard, if you do this, if you
Right.
do that, if.
If you pull
No, there
yourself up by your bootstraps.
a
Uh-huh. Yep.
mental shift that everyone deserves an affordable home, a home where they can feel safe, that they can afford. And that really is the first place, because if we don't shift our way of thinking as individuals and as communities,
Hmm.
we are stuck in either apathy, or we are stuck simply replicating the same system
Mhm.
that continues to use people as cogs in an empire, right? I always tell people empires need bodies. And where you think those bodies come from, okay?
Empires need
So there
bodies.
has to be a mental shift.
Oof.
I think about God speaking in Deuteronomy. God simply says, hey, if there is a poor person with you, one of your brothers, we consider all humanity our brothers and sisters, in
Yes.
any of your towns or your land, which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart
Yeah.
or close your hand from your brother or your sister, but you will freely open your hand and generously lend him sufficient for his need and whatever he lacks, right? Our way of thinking must shift.
Yeah.
Then we need to listen, like conversations like this, because sometimes people don't know. I saw that earlier on the chat in the comments. Sometimes people just don't know. They don't
Yes.
know how prevalent homelessness is,
Yeah.
because it doesn't affect your immediate network. But you
Yes.
know what? It might affect somebody in your network, and you
Oh
just
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't
And
know.
it may
So
have
it's a
already.
family.
Yeah,
Yes,
it may have already, because when I
yes,
think about the period wherein I had to figure out, you know, will I be able to stay in my apartment? Am I going to have to sleep in my car? Like
yeah,
these things I had to think about. I didn't
yes,
readily just say that. Like I didn't readily just say that I'm dealing with this to anybody.
correct.
It was something that I held until I couldn't control what was going to happen anymore, right? And so,
Exactly.
and then even then, sometimes people still don't say anything. Sometimes people
Correct.
just don't live in the car, and
Yes.
or
Yes.
somewhere, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So listen to learn. Right. What does homelessness really look like? Does it really always look like iced tea in the game, surviving the game? Does it really always look like the couple who are at the intersection?
Right.
No, it doesn't always look like that. Like that is such a sliver
Right.
of what homelessness looks like. Homelessness
Right.
looks like everybody else.
Hmm.
Homelessness looks like your grandmother, because
Yeah.
one of the largest categories of people who are experiencing homelessness right now are people who are elderly.
Mm.
Homelessness looks like your grandmother not being able to afford where she lives.
So from an age dynamic, what's that age group? With
Um, we're talking about people who are, we would say in their retirement age, 60, 65 and up. Can you,
wow,
I mean,
I can't
70 years
imagine. Yeah, I can't
old, right?
imagine.
So we're dealing with ageism. So I mean, it's hard to get a job, and your body. And
Right.
and in my mind, because people always told me I just think crazy. In my mind, you lived 70 years. You've given 70 years.
Hmm.
Why aren't we as a community, as a society, giving you the opportunity to rest?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But again, so join now, right? Don't wait. Like after this conversation tonight,
Yeah.
commit to do something that's going to take you more deeply into this movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That could be educating yourself.
Yeah.
That could be sharing this conversation
Yeah.
on your platforms. That could be talking to your pastor or the chairperson of your organization. That could be researching to see, okay, how many organizations are there in my county that are working on this, and I don't
Yeah.
even know it, right?
Yeah.
But do
Mhm.
something. Join right now, because there are many ways to engage, right? So there's the policy systemic piece, there's the educational piece, right? There's the relational piece, and
Yes.
then there's a piece to provide immediate relief. Where do you fit? But join now. And then it's persistence, right? It's being like that widow. It's not giving up. I love the poor people's campaign, right? 2 steps forward and not 1 step back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved Kamala Harris, right? We are not going back,
We're
right?
not going back,
To,
right?
to
That's right.
persist,
To persist.
because honestly, most of us, right? If we're not in that 1% of the uber rich, most of us are a sickness away,
Yeah.
an accident away,
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah.
a paycheck away,
Yeah.
my department is downsizing away.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, yeah, all of
not
that.
that hard. It's
Yeah.
not that hard, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so because of that,
Mm.
it's that mental shift of having a heart of compassion, but compassion that leads to action.
Compassion over that. Yes.
Right? Because
Right.
Jesus, the Bible always says Jesus felt deep compassion for them. Jesus was moved, but the
Right.
compassion led to action. He
Led
didn't
to
just stand there and feel bad for people.
that's right.
Yeah,
I feel
Jesus
so
did
sorry,
something. I
but
feel
then
so
like,
bad for you,
what
right?
can I do in order
What can
to
I
help?
do?
Yeah, what can I
What
do?
can
And
I
so,
do?
yeah,
What can I do?
yeah,
And it could be as simple or small, or saying, you know what, I'm going to keep in my car some kit, some bag that I can do this. Like, I know I can't do a whole lot, but I can do this. And if I see someone and it will have these things in it, and I can just say, hey, I don't have a lot to give you, but I can give you this if you
mhm,
will accept it. Maybe it has a toothbrush, toothpaste, and um, wipes or soap or bottle of water, or and $5 or whatever. But you
right,
can decide, this is something I'm going to do until I can figure out how I can do more.
yeah,
Because this is what Mother Teresa said. She said, I can't help everybody,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah,
can help the person right in front of me.
right, 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 right,
Right.
yeah,
So yeah, the mental shift, learning, join now, today, right now, Today is the day of salvation. Harden not your heart.
Today is
And
the day.
persist.
That's
And
right.
persist. Yeah,
Thank
persist.
you, Dr. A. So we're gonna have to do this again. I've
Yeah.
talked to a few folks within our community outreach realm at the Pillar Community Church, and I don't know if you even know this, but like the organization is listed as our partnerships. So we hopefully intend to help in some way, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
This area, there's so much that I think all of us want to do, but to help and to be able to push this vision, as well as you have also, you're a ministry partner with us at the Pillar Community Church, as we partner with TFCC as well, and so certainly to help as we can, and so we'll have more conversations
Yeah.
about this, and we'll do this again. We'll do this again.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to just end by again plugging for you all our gala that we are hosting on December 20th.
Tell
I
us how
believe
we can
that,
register. Tell us how we
yes,
can
I'm going to do it right now. I sure
register. Okay,
am. Let's see here. Let me see if I can get it on. Let's see,
let's
where
see.
is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go.
And I'm already registered. So if you
Oh,
following
you already
my
registered?
footsteps, if you following in my footsteps, I already registered. I have my ticket. I gave my donation. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. 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 Yeah, that's great. That's great. Let's see here. There we go. I'm going to share.
And I'm gonna
This
just
should be our homepage.
add it. I'm gonna add it to
All
you.
right, there we go.
There
There
we
we
go.
go. That's our homepage. And I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger so folks can actually kind of see what's on here. Right. And this is the homepage, www.ncceh.org. ncceh.org. You go to our homepage, and right there, you can just click that button, purchase tickets here, right? And it's going to click it, and it's right there, right? Our goal is $20,000 for the evening and 150 people to attend. Last year, which was our first year, we had like 90 people. We almost hit 100, which was our
Wow.
goal.
Wow.
Our
Wow.
goal this year is 150, and we know we can do it, right? I know we can do it. I know we can do it. It's going to be at the Royal, which is on Hillsborough Street in Raleigh, right across the street from Meredith College. And there'll be parking, cocktail attire. You're going to learn more about who we are as an agency. You get to learn more about our partnerships. You'll get to hear some wonderful conversation, dynamic conversation from community organizers on the national level, as well as people who have worked with individuals directly who are experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
Now, we are also seeking new members on our board of directors at NCCEH. So if our organization sounds like one that fits who you are, what your values are, and you think that you would make a great board member, I'd love to talk to you. You can reach me at latonya.agard@ncceh.org. And I'd love to talk to you more about what being a board member entails. What are the time commitments? What are our strategic goals? What's our strategic plan? All of that stuff. So you can discern whether or not that's how you fit into this movement to ensure housing justice for everyone, right? Jesus was about justice. And this is one way that we can live out our faith. That's what I got for you tonight. This was so much fun.
This was a lot of fun. Listen, we could talk.
Yeah.
We're at 1 hour and 10 minutes, so we're going to wrap this up. But this has been a very important discussion. And so I didn't want to, end too early. And I didn't want to stop, where we were going. But again, I do think that we need to have more conversations like this, Dr. A.
Absolutely.
so that we can add to this education and understanding and give people an opportunity to really understand how important this issue is for so many.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
thank you
I'm glad
so
to
much.
come on anytime.
Yeah,
Anytime.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. And
Thank
listen,
you.
you can also find that website on pillarcommunity.org/partnerships. I just want you to know. It's also on
Ah,
the website. You
that's what's
click on
up.
the link. You click on the link. There will be the logo, and on that logo, you click on it, and it'll take you right to their website as well. So you can get there through that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. We
Absolutely.
value the relationship. We
Yeah.
value the partnership, the wisdom, and the support.
Yeah.
I know it's not just the money and this, but I know you're praying for us, right? So we're going to talk faith
Absolutely.
right now. Pray,
Absolutely.
pray for this movement. Pray
Yeah.
for that people's hearts will be changed,
Yes.
and that systems can be torn down
Yes. Yeah.
and resurrected for
Yes.
justice,
Yes.
for all people,
For
right?
all people. And
All
and you
people.
know what? It takes our action.
That's right.
If we find anything about salvation in the Bible, it is this communal salvation, right? That
That's
is
right.
that is our hands and feet working. And so let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah,
We already have the gospel
that's
that
right.
empowers us. And so
Yeah,
all we have to do is do and get in the work.
yeah,
So thank you
that's
so
right.
much again. This is
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, Pastor.
All right. Listen, thank you all so much for joining, for being in this space. Please, if you don't mind, share this conversation with someone. If you don't mind, go to that website. Again, it's ncceh.org. Make sure you go to their website. If you want to be on the board, if you feel compelled, please do that. If you feel compelled, even at your church, if you're a pastor, to get in this work as well, you can contact Dr. A. I just think that this is a worthy cause for so many people and families as well. Have a wonderful night. I do want to announce that we will have our next Bible study will be January 2nd. We're taking the rest of December off from midweek, and January 2nd will be our next Bible study, and we will resume every other week for Bible study. There will be some more information on our website, our Facebook page, our YouTube page. There'll be an announcement to tell you how Bible study is going to look in 2025. It's going to look a little bit different. And so I hope that you take this journey with us on this, I guess, re-imaging of our Bible study going forward. And I'm looking forward to the journey. You all have a wonderful, wonderful night. God bless you. God keep you. This is certainly my prayer.